Hi, this video today is going to be a testimony. Really, it's about the faithfulness of God and walking in the Spirit and the amazing miracles and seeing God in your midst. And I'll just share something, one testimony that's happened in my life where walking by faith brought a lot of interesting things into my path that it was definitely God. And it's so cool to watch God's hand moving in your midst. So the way it started out on this one particular testimony in my life was I felt like I was supposed to go to Italy. I had no idea, like for sure. So long story short, I made some connections kind of inadvertently. Again, divine appointments came up and I ended up going to Italy by myself. Now, I was a person at that time who never did much by myself like that. I didn't get on an airplane and fly to, across the water. So I just did it. I bit the bullet. I'm like, I feel like it's God. I'm going to go to Italy. I had a connection that was going to be in Italy and meet me there and help me get to this little village that I had another connection in that came up. And so I was going to stay with some missionaries who were up in this little Italian village in northern Italy, and I can't even tell you the name of it. So it's written down somewhere. But I ended up meeting my connection and getting up to this little village and staying with this family that was a Christian family, American Christian family, up there staying in Italy. And on the plane, I started feeling this sense prompting to start writing out something God wanted to share with me. So I ended up with a message on this notebook paper, which was amazing. And I didn't know what it was for, but when I get to Italy, I started getting introduced to a group of people who actually lived up in a little encampment together. They were Italian Christians, and they were having a conference up there, and they had tents set up. And all these people lived together kind of communally in little camper trailers and tents and things. So when I arrived up there to this encampment, they were eating dinner, and I sat down and had dinner with them. And then there were different speakers, and the leader of this group asked me, could I go and speak to the women? Of course, I didn't know Italian, so I thought, well, we'll work it out. He said, I'll give you an interpreter. So I went into the building where the women were having their little conference, and they asked me to speak. And first I started to just speak a little bit, edifying and in general, and then it occurred to me that I had this message from the airplane. So I gave them the message from the airplane through an interpreter. And at the end, everybody started crying. And of course you're thinking, I don't really know, like if that interpreter said something that would, upset them, if she was saying everything I actually meant. But as it turned out, it was good crying. It was the Holy Spirit, like sending relief to them through the message, I guess. I didn't know what was going on in their lives. But we ended up having a prayer time, and again through an interpreter, so that was really amazing. And then another door opened. There was a woman that had a broken leg, and she wasn't able to go to the women's meeting. So the pastor asked me would I would just go meet with her in person and talk with her. She actually spoke English because she was from England, and her husband was from Mexico. So I went over there, and I was speaking with her, and we were praying a little bit, and I was praying for her leg. But while I was praying for her leg, I got a word of knowledge, and I really was a little bit nervous about it. And I said, well, you need to judge this, but I think I'm hearing the Lord give me a word for you, and it is that there's something that you are supposed to be doing that you're not doing, something He told you and your husband to do. And she busted out crying, and I'm thinking, okay. She goes shaking her head, yes, and she's crying, yes, there is. And so I was kind of relieved. I'm like, I'm glad I heard the Lord right. That was a hard word to give somebody, and I don't even know. And I said, well, what was it? And she said, well, the Lord told us that my husband and I are supposed to go to Texas and start ministering to the Hispanic community because my husband is from Mexico. And we told the pastor about it, and he did not give us his blessing to do that. And all of a sudden, what flew out of my mouth without me having any time to think was, well, who are you going to obey, God or man? And so that was the last I saw of her, or so I thought. So 2 years later, fast forward, I was going to Alabama to be a part of a tent ministry. A friend of mine was setting up a tent in a field, in a farm field, and they were going to have a little revival meeting. And so I was walking up to this tent, and I saw people in the field, and all of a sudden I heard a voice say, "Teresa?" And I said, "Yes." And I looked at this woman, and I thought, I recognize you from somewhere. And just a minute, I'm going to get this picture. Here's the picture. There's the tent in the field. That's my back turned to the camera. And the woman to the left in the blue, that's the woman from Italy. Can you believe it? This woman was the same woman that I talked to in Italy. And she and her husband had come back and gone back to the leader of their group and asked him about this again and told them the word I gave her. And the leader of the group gave them his blessing to go. And they'd been in Texas ministering to a Hispanic community there and just having, a powerful ministry. And so I said to her, "Well, you've got to come to my house in Pensacola, Florida." Remember, I'm in Alabama. And you've got to come to my house and have dinner. And so she said, "Oh, well, what's your address?" And I told her my address on Two Sisters Way. And she said, "Two Sisters Way? We're staying on Two Sisters Way with so-and-so and so-and-so." And I said, "Yeah, I know them. They're Colombian missionaries." And she was like, "Oh my gosh." So anyway, they come to my house. Everything just kept like one thing after another. They come to my house. They're sitting at my table, and then I get a knock at the door. So I go to the door, and it's a young man, a college student from Puerto Rico. And I had moved to that new house about a year before, and I had lived in an apartment before that. And I had done a lot of discipleship with some college students, and he was one of them. And he was at my door saying, he speaks Spanish, remember? He's saying, "Oh, I'm so glad I found you. I've been looking for you, and I finally found this address because I lost track of you." And I said, "Oh my goodness." So I said, "Come in," and I looked at the husband, and I said, "This is for you." And he got up and he went over and he ministered to this young man in my living room in Spanish. Now, that's amazing. That was God. That was God just setting all these things up. You're just walking by faith, just stepping out and doing what he said to do, going where he says to go, and how he just brought it all around and brought this whole situation back around. I mean, you could not orchestrate something like that. So anyway, I thought maybe I would start sharing some of these amazing adventures that I have been on with God. And I know that a lot of you have probably been on some adventures. And some of you maybe that are listening to this have, don't really know that much about God yet and haven't seen him work in your midst so much. Let me just say that it is never a dull moment when you walk with the Lord and you walk by the Spirit and not by just your own, mind. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like this video and, just subscribe to my channel. Send it out to someone else that you think it might bless. And you have a blessed day.